In an alleyway outside her home, grandmother Aralapan Rani is cooking a fish curry for her family. Every meal is made out here these days, with whatever she can find as fuel for the fire.
Over the past few months, we have been very sad. There's no gas, no kerosene oil to cook in a kerosene cooker, no firewood.
There are 3 generations under Rani's roof, and sometimes there's not enough food for all of them.
These are stressful times for us. We are day wage earners, always thinking of how to feed the kids and carry on with life.
Sri Lanka is going through an unprecedented economic crisis. Inflation exceeds 50%, and there are shortages of food, fuel and other essentials. Everyone in Rani's neighbourhood in the country's biggest city, Colombo, is feeling the pinch.
All things are very expensive. Cooking and buy rice, everything is very expensive.
There are daily power cuts for hours at a time, but even when there is electricity, it's costly to keep the lights on.
We don't know how the future will look. We don't know if prices will get higher or lower. We are hoping it will be lower, because if it's higher, we won't be able to live.
There are 22 million people on this tiny island nation, and they're all affected by the economic crisis in some way. Around the corner we find one of the many long lines of drivers queuing for petrol. Tuk-tuk driver Jude Fernando is almost at the front.
How long have you been in the queue?
About 5 days now.
5 days?
Yes.
And do you sleep here at night or do you go home?
Not sleeping very well.
Are you sleeping in your tuk-tuk?
Yes, tuk-tuk. Not good sleep. Many troubles.
The drivers have just found out the petrol's run out today, so they'll have to wait for more to be delivered.
When you get to the front of the queue here, how much petrol are you allowed to buy?
Only 5 litres.
Only 5 litres?
5 litres.
How long does that last?
Only 4 hours, 3 hours, we finish.
So you queue for 5 days to be able to work for 3 hours?
Yes.
Wow. How do you feel about that?
Getting angry. Not only me, everybody.
That anger is being felt right across the nation. People have been protesting for the past 3 months. It all came to a head just over a week ago when thousands stormed the luxury residence of their strongman president, Gotabaya Rajapaksa. They blame him and his government for the mess their country's in. Sri Lankans who'd been battling to make ends meet for months lapped up the palatial surroundings, then occupied the place for the next 5 days. Budi Praboda Karunaratne was one of the first people to break into the colonial-era building.
We were talking about for past 3 months, and when we actually did it, it was like hard to believe.
Since April, Budi has been living in this tent city next to the presidential precinct, which was set up by protesters demanding President Rajapaksa resign.
So we gather around in the evening and we discuss and we plan our strategies, what should we do, what shouldn't we do. And I think living here was it helped us to plan many things and fight against this government.
For Budi, it all started with one social media post saying he was going to start a protest against the ruling blokes who didn't understand how people were suffering.
I was just an individual who made a statement on social media, and I wanted people to join as well.
Hundreds did the very next day. Then they joined up with other like-minded groups and a movement was born. Almost 100 days later, they achieved their goal. President Rajapaksa fled the country and resigned.
When you can go from sun-kissed to mountain mist, that's so Sri Lanka.
Just a few years ago, Sri Lanka was a nation with so much promise. Tourism was booming and the government borrowed heavily from overseas banks and countries, including China, to build infrastructure. Then in 2019, there were deadly terror attacks in Colombo. And after that, along came COVID and the tourists stopped coming. Rajapaksa dipped into foreign exchange reserves and cut taxes to try to keep the country afloat, but his policies failed.
In amongst all this, the Rajapaksa government decided Sri Lanka would go organic, and it banned the use of all chemical fertilisers and pesticides. The result for farmers was catastrophic, and soon the effects would be felt at markets like this, where the price of staples like rice and fresh fruit and vegetables went through the roof.
There is light at the end of the tunnel. We hope to engineer and garner and mobilize all resources available to make sure that Sri Lanka is once again prosperous.
Sri Lankans, though, have become very sceptical of politicians and their promises. Instead, they're relying on each other.
I'm very happy that the community and neighbours are united and we are managing these difficult times. At the moment, we don't know what our future will be, but we are united.